All right, welcome to the Off the Rails Sports Podcast, and we're going to do a nice Ryder Cup preview here for the weekend's golf actions. To me, first of all, hit that like and subscribe button, leave some comments. But to me, in the world of sports, there's some really big events. Yeah, I know, Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. But that happens every year. The Ryder Cup only happens every other year. To me, this is in the pantheon of World Cup, Olympics. I know those are every 4-year events, even though I'm sure World Cup is going to be going down to every 2 years, but that's another story for another time. And there is quite the history. If you go back in the Ryder Cup, Europe used to be the whipping boy. This is back in the Jack Nicklaus era when he gave infamously conceded the putt to Tony Jacklin to get a half. But America just smashed them, kind of like we see in the President's Cup. But that was the greatness of Seve Ballesteros. He literally rallied Europe, and he said, we can beat America. They did here and there, but I literally look back on the moment where the Ryder Cup really became a transformative event is the rally at Kiwi Island in South Carolina, where Bernard Langer literally missed probably the hardest putt I've ever seen. It was a 4-footer. It peeled off to the right. And most normal people, it would have destroyed literally their lives and their careers. Bernard did battle back because he is such an incredibly amazing athlete and so mentally tough. He actually won a Masters after that. But that set the tone of where America and Europe, literally, it went head to head. And 2 years ago, Europe just wiped the map with America in Rome. And the last time we've seen a road team win was the Europeans' great win in 2012 at Medina, where they had a crazy rally on the last day. Rory McIlroy leading the Europeans that day. And in 2021, the last time it was held on American soil, the Americans just blasted them at Whistling Straits. Now we're heading to Bethpage Black. And full disclosure, I bet on America. I took them at a minus a buck 32. And I will say this, I made a mistake. I did. I really thought, and this is my thought, is America has a huge advantage when they play with rough. If you play on a links-style course with very little rough, like the Masters, things like that, Europe levels the playing field. We're going to see what ends up happening. But I'm looking at the teams coming in, and honestly, I think Europe actually has the better team. Typically, when we get to Europe, to Ryder Cup, America is a little more talented, but the Europeans are a little more cohesive. They seem friendlier. They seem like they actually like each other. And I don't really know if you could say that with the American squad. Any squad with Patrick Cantlay, I'm not sure how many guys like each other. Bryson DeChambeau, a little gnat there here on the golf course. Bryson DeChambeau are definitely polarizing figures. It'll be interesting to see who they get paired with in 4-ball and better ball. Let's go down the Ryder Cup team for the U.S. Scotty Scheffler, obviously, hands down the best golfer in the world. J.J. Spaun, Xander Schauffele, who's had an okay year, but he's coming back from injuries at the end of last year. I don't think it was actually as fulfilling of a year as he would have hoped. Russell Henley, new name on the spot. Harris English, what's going to happen here? Bryson DeChambeau. Personally, I know he's a great YouTube golfer. I know he's I call it lib trash. He loves going into these public things where they actually have crowds, because this just in, on live golf tours, they don't have any crowds. It's literally the announcers and their spouses. But he gets out to the U.S. Open, he gets to the Masters, and there's crowds, and boy, he feeds off that energy. This may be a big thing for him coming into this weekend. He is definitely going to have the blood flowing here. Justin Thomas, okay year. Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Patrick Cantlay. I will say this, Patrick Cantlay is, in my estimation, the biggest the best big money putter. If you need a putt in the world, there is nobody I'd rather have than Patrick Cantlay. The putt he made in the last Ryder Cup, even though they lost, man, that guy has just got ice water in his veins. Cameron Young and Sam Burns. I'm looking at America, the greatest golf country in the world, and I guess this is what I'm looking at. You know, personally, I think Keegan Bradley should have named himself on the squad, but hey, whatever. Let's talk about the European side, and really, I think there is a talent advantage that's going to Europe. This scares the hell out of me. You got Rory McIlroy, Robert McIntyre, who just was stunning this year, especially at the U.S. Open. Tommy Fleetwood, who finally got off the schneid. He always hovered around winning on the PGA Tour. At the end of the year at the Tour Championship, he finally broke through. Justin Rose, who won in the FedEx playoffs. Tyrell Hatton, that guy is a Netflix series just waiting to be discovered. Rasmus Højgaard, his brother was on the 2023 team. He didn't make it this year, so now we got to make sure we have a Højgaard over there for Europe. Then we got Jon Rahm, who I think is really at this point, he's still a good golfer, but he's in LIV, and I don't think he's used to seeing that pressure. I think we saw that at the PGA. Shane Lowry, I think he had really one of the most underrated years on tour. Victor Hovland, he's kind of like stocks. It goes up, it goes down. It's a Richter reading, right? Seb Straka, who had an amazing year, very under the radar. Ludwig Oberg. You know, there's so much talent there. At Torrey Pines in the signature event, he was amazing, but I don't think he ever got back up to that level. And finally, Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm looking at the squad, and I understand America does definitely have the home course advantage. They have the crowd, which is huge. Make no mistake. That's why so many of the home teams win, and win in resounding fashion. But here's a breakdown of the last couple. Europe in 2023 won 16.5 to 11.5. Now, each match is worth a point. If you have it, it's a half point, which basically means you tie. Look, if you're watching this, I'm sure you already know that. 2021, United States won 19 to 9 at Whistling Straits, where they're going to go back in 4 years. 2018, Europe won 17 to 5 to 10-5 at Le Golf National in France. And what you're seeing here is these really aren't competitive matches. Once one team gets up, it just literally snowballs. Europe won 16-5 to 11-5 at Glen Eagles in Scotland back in 2014. And like I said, 2012, Europe won 14.5 to 13.5 at Medina Golf Club. Now, we're going into this, and the thing I always worry about with America is that there isn't a lot of camaraderie among the players. Honestly, when you have Scotty Scheffler, he's the guy who's going to be driving the bus. But who is the second anchor on this team? I don't think it's Bryson DeChambeau. Maybe it's Patrick Cantlay. These are difficult decisions to be made by Keegan Bradley. But on Friday, we're going to have the foursomes, which is alternate shot, right? Obviously, you better have somebody who's got a game that really complements your game real well. Obviously, somebody hits the tee shot, the next guy hits the next shot, so on and so forth. But also, then we have the 4-ball, which is going to happen, which is basically a best ball type of situation. They all play their individual ball. It's the lowest score for the team gets there. Usually these ones, you know, they kind of even out. You don't see a lot. Really, where you're going to see the difference is in the foursomes. And then we finally, on Sunday, we'll have the singles where all 12 players line up against each other, depending on where it goes. All right, Bethpage, it's going to be a huge advantage for America. I do think the camaraderie advantage is definitely always goes to Europe. I think this is the first time that Europe is going to have a talent advantage, which I can't even get my head around that. But for the prediction here, I think you're going to see an incredibly tight match. I think you're going to see something like 15 to 13, 14.5 to 13.5. I actually took a tie at 15 to 1. I'm going to take the Americans, even though I know I'm a little biased because I did bet on them. I do think the home crowd, especially in New York, which is a little more rowdy, I think that's going to feed players like Bryson DeChambeau, players who feed on that energy, feed on that just adrenaline. All right, let's see how it all works out. But the prediction here from Off the Rails is America 14.5 to Europe 13.5. Let's see how it plays out. Hit that like and subscribe. Go ahead and leave some comments. Tell me who you think's going to win the Ryder Cup, and we'll see you soon on Off the Rails Sports Podcast.